If you like our content, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get alerts when we introduce new videos.
So in this video, we're going to talk about IoT Insights and integrating video into the IoT Insights platform. So what I have here is I have IoT Insights up and running, and I just completed reinitializing the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to configure the system, enter my address of the IoT controller. Okay, so here's where we're going to set up the VMS, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter the URL of the ipconfigure VMS here. And this drop-down selects the VMS. We actually support two VMSs. We support ipconfigure and access network communication. So for this demonstration, I'm going to use ipconfigure. So there's no need for ipconfigure to enter in a username or password. So I'm going to continue configuring the system. Leave some of those defaults. I'm going to set this up. Okay, I'm going to leave the color settings alone, and I'm just going to change the temperature to Fahrenheit. I've reinitialized the system, configured it for ipconfigure VMS, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a new location. And I'm just going to call the location, the room name lab. Site is PC 01 US, first floor. I'm going to add that. So now I've got a location. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new device. And I've already onboarded several sensors onto my IoT controller. So I'm going to bring in one of those into IoT Insights. I'm going to bring in the door sensor. And that's a Samsung door sensor located in my lab. This is the video preview. So this is the amount of time that you want to capture before that event triggers. So I'm going to set this up for 5 seconds. Device type is a door window contact sensor. So I'm going to add that. Finish that. So now I've got a location and I've got a sensor onboarded into IoT Insights. And let's just check that that is working properly. So I'm going to open up the door window contact sensor. And you can see it does work. It triggered. It went red. It's in the displays here. However, we don't have a camera assigned. Notice we don't have a camera assigned. So I'm going to close that sensor. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to go to the database and add a new camera. However, I don't have any cameras in the drop-down. So that's because what I need to do is I need to configure the VMS. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to go to the ipconfigure VMS URL. So this is the ipconfigure VMS. So I'm going to go to the menu, camera configuration. Notice we have no cameras right now, but I do have cameras on my network. I'm going to add a camera. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log in. And notice the system has scanned my network and it's found 3 cameras. I'm going to onboard only these 2. So I'm going to register those cameras. Okay, so those came into the system. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to name the cameras. So I'm going to edit the cameras here. Instead of having just an IP address, I'm going to call this one camera 1. And I'm going to edit this one, call this one camera 2. So we've onboarded a few cameras onto the ipconfigure VMS. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to IoT Insights here. I'm going to go to Database button, and I'm going to add a camera to the system. So notice now in the drop-down the cameras are listed. So I'm going to select camera 1. And I'm going to assign that to the lab. So I'm going to add that camera. I'm going to open the sensor again. And you can see the sensor triggered again, just like before. However, this time we have a camera assigned. So what I could do is I could, click the event and play the video. So that's an example of how to integrate video into our IoT Insights platform using the ipconfigure VMS. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to integrate a different video management system into the IoT Insights platform, and that's Access Communications. Access runs on a Windows PC, so I've already downloaded the Access Camera Station client. But what I want to do, there's a couple things I want to do to my Windows PC to make sure it communicates with IoT Insights. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the firewall and network protection screen, and I'm going to turn off the firewall for private networks. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. So the firewall is now off for private networks. The next thing I want to do is I want to open up just a regular command window, and I want to get the IP address of this Windows PC. So I'm just going to do the ipconfig, and the IP address is 192.168.88.53. We're going to need that when we go back to IoT Insights to configure the VMS. Okay, so that's some housekeeping. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the Access Camera Station client. And when you install this software, you get both a server that runs as a Windows service, and then you get this client. But we're going to use this to actually onboard the cameras onto the server. So this is the opening screen, comes up with add devices, and in my particular configuration, I have a Access F44 main unit, and it supports 4 ports or 4 camera sensors. And I've plugged in one of my camera sensors into the first port, and you could see it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that camera, and I'm going to add it. And a couple dialogues that we need to make sure are right. I'm going to use the quick configuration, and I'm going to use host names instead of IP addresses when possible. Click Next. This is the retention time. I'm keeping videos for 90 days. It's automatic storage, and we're using the continuous recording method. So I'm going to install that, and I'm going to get my license later. So I'm going to check that box. And you can see it's now disappeared from the Add Devices screen, and it is now in the Cameras screen. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select that, and I want to really change the name because they've got this really long name here. So I'm going to call it something else. Put this one in my lab. So I'm just going to call it LabCam and say OK there. It's changed the name. So that's really about it for setting up Access Camera Station. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my IoT Insights platform. It's platform, and now I'm going to reinitialize the system. Enter my credentials and initialize. I'm going to initialize everything. Delete the settings file. Okay, and my system builder comes up. IP address of the IoT controller. And password. Okay, this is the VMS URL. Now remember, this is the IP address of the Windows PC. If you remember, when I was on the Windows PC, I typed ipconfig to get that IP address, and it is 192.168.88.53. You have to put in a port number here, and that is 55756. Select the vendor of access, username of the Windows PC, password, go through the configuration. These things I leave alone. Set this up for US, New York time zone. Leave the colors alone. Change the environmental units to Fahrenheit. And now the system is being reinitialized. So the next thing that I am going to do is I'm going to add a location now. It's going to be my lab. Site is PC 01, US, First floor. Add that. Notice the Access logo has come up already here in the left-hand corner. So IoT Insights knows that we're set up for Access communications for a VMS. Okay, so I want to add a new device. There's my Samsung door sensor. It's in the lab. I'm going to keep the 5-second preview. Door window contact sensor. Add that. Finish. Okay, so now I want to add my camera. So I'm going to add a new camera. And there it is. It's the lab cam, and it is in my lab. Add that. Okay, so we have everything configured. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trigger the door sensor. See, it's triggered. I'm going to select the event. And there's the video. You should see me opening up the door sensor right here. And there it is. Okay, so that completes this video. It's a demonstration of integrating video into our IoT Insights platform for both the IP Configure VMS and the Access VMS.